This is page 107 on one side and 110 on the other side. Kind of do this for some extra practice. For EE8, it says to complete each table, then graph the equation. And then I also want to talk about write a story problem, because remember when we had two variables, how do we write those? So that if you can do that, that'll help you understand their relationship. So first off, the equation is y equals x plus 2. In other words, you're going to take your x column and you're always going to add 2 in order to get y. So you could write that in by saying plus 2 here, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, and then you could go ahead and fill in the rest of your numbers. And then the graph, this one's actually already been graphed for you. So I want to talk about the equation and how that would work for our story problem. So remember the story problem, I always had x slices of pizza, so I start with I have x slices of pizza. And then I have to have a second person in the story problem because if I'm X, I have to have a second person, which is Y. So I'm going to say my brother, and he has to be Y because I'm X, so he's Y. My brother Y has, and then this is where I look at the clue. If I'm X, he's always going to have 2 more than me because it says plus 2 here. So he has 2 more slices than me. And then I ask the question, how many slices does he have in terms of x? And why is it in terms of x? Because I never really tell you what I have for a number. I just say I have x. Now if I go on to say that I have 4 slices of pizza and I'm X, and if I have 4, then he would have 6, and then that's how you can kind of solve this one here. So I want to also look at the next one, the next example, y equals x minus 3. So you're taking your x and you're subtracting 3. So you see x, so all these numbers are your x, you need to subtract 3 to get y. So you can put that in here, minus 3, minus 3, minus 3, minus 3. 3, that'd be 2, 1, and 0. So, and then in order to graph that over 7 and up 4, because of your x-axis over 7 and up 4, to graph that, over 6, up 3, over 5, up 2, over 4, up 1, over 3, and this is linear, they fall on a straight line, which is good. So what would my story problem be here? In the last problem, I always had x, and then my brother was related. Up here, he was 2 more than me because it said plus 2. If I have x, then my brother's going to be 3 less than me because it is minus 3. So it kind of helps to look at this. So again, I would start with I have x slices of pizza. My brother, and then he's always Y, so I like to state that he's Y, has, and instead of saying 2 more, like I said up here when it was plus 2, I have to say 3 less than me because of the subtract 3. So then I have to ask how many slices does he have in terms of x, because I never really tell you what I have, I just say I have x. If I give you a number for x, then you could subtract and figure out what he has. So there's your story problems there. On this particular graph down below, the tricky part with this one is that d equals 5 times t, and so we're used to seeing y equals 5 times x, and the reason I know this is y, it's the one by itself, which is always the dependent variable. And so we're used to seeing in like our table x comma y, and if I were to do that, this is x, this is y, it's almost backwards. We have y and then x. So if it makes sense here, you're always taking 5 times t. It's almost like you're solving this backwards. Times 5 gives you 10, times 5 gives you 15, times 5 gives you 20, times 5 gives you 25. So if it makes more sense to take this whole column for y and move it over here, your d, and then just have your 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25, that makes more sense when you're graphing it, because you're not going to graph 5, 1, you're actually going over 1, 5. to 10, not 10 to. The reason being time, hours. There's your T for time. That's over here on your X. And then your distance, which was the D for distance, is over here on the Y axis. So when you graph this, that's like 1 comma 5, 2 comma 10, 3 comma 15, 4 comma 25 comma 25. So this one's kind of backwards here. So when you graph this, looks more like this to help. Again, it's linear. And then you can do the other side for more practice.